That's why it's so rough and crawl, and that's why it makes so much noise. That it's because that stupid valve. Your new Tundra has a different type of valve. It's a spinning ball that they speed up or slow down, so it's whisper quiet and it's also smooth. It's the new tech that they're going to roll into every Corolla, Prius, and on up. And the changes that they've made to MTS and crawl will be in your next Sequoia, as well as the Tacoma and the 4Runner when they come out next year. So we're going to just walk through that.
Okay.
Anytime you start the Tundra, whether it's a hybrid or a gas-powered car, it will always default to that drive mode light being lit.
Okay.
If you spin the knob right or left, it's our traditional eco, normal, and sport modes. All of our trucks and sedans do exactly the same thing, and most people don't know that. In eco mode, all of our transmissions start in second gear, and the car will upshift at about 1,400 RPM. That's how we get the mileage out of them. And although most people probably don't care that much, as we get closer to $6 a gallon in some states, people start to care. This exact truck that you're sitting in, when we drove from Bozeman to Boise, set the cruise control at 70 miles an hour, we got 24.3 miles per gallon in this truck. The hybrids, we're experiencing about 1.5 miles per gallon better than that. Now, if we set the cruise at 85 like I did, then you get 17.8, which is still pretty respectable for a vehicle this big. I mean, it's punching a big hole in the atmosphere as it moves along at 85 miles an hour. But I don't think people are going to be disappointed with the mileage they get. If we want to put it in 4 high, just like our other products, you have to put gently down and pull it back. It'll blink a few times and then the light will go solid. It's a shift on the fly system. So you can do it in park, neutral, reverse, or drive, but you can only do it up to what speed?
60.
No.
59.9.
No.
55.
I don't know where that's, everybody tells me 60, but I don't think we've ever actually built anything that does it at 60.
It's that Tundra, like on my Tacoma, I tried it the other day as well, when it snowed last. I tried to put it over there in 60 or above 60, it would not engage.
Yeah, none of them do.
And then when I got below 60, I turned it over and it would work.
So the specific number for the Tundra is 55. Some of our trucks are 52, some of them are 58. It just depends, I guess, on which engineer touched it last. I tell everybody I talk to, if you're under 50 miles an hour, you can move it in and out all day long, and it will not hurt the truck and it will not affect the warranty.
Okay.
Up to 50 miles an hour, you're good. Anything over that, it becomes dependent on the model. If you try and do it at 85, the dash is going to go nuts and tell you not to.
It just says beep, beep, beep.
Yeah, but as you start slowing down, as soon as you get under the threshold, then it will make the move for you. You don't actually have to take it back out, just leave it there and start slowing down. So it's got a survival instinct programmed into it. It's just trying to prevent you from doing it on the interstate. And the reason is, all of our part-time four-wheel drive systems, it's just raw gears in there, right? There's no clutch pack to take up the slack. So if you're going fast on a dry day like today, it's just an enormous amount of wear and tear on all those components. If you're only supposed to drive it on low traction surfaces like a gravel road or snow and ice, one would question why you're trying to put it in four-wheel drive at 65 miles an hour in the first place. So that's kind of the thought process. If you're under 50, you're safe, you're never wrong, it doesn't matter what truck you're in, and you can't hurt it. If you're over that threshold, it beeps at you, just start slowing down and it eventually will go in on its own. Now, if the light just blinks, that means that those gears haven't engaged completely. You'll oftentimes see that first thing in the morning when all the gear oil is still cold and thick. Just drive the truck. You know, if you're heading to work, just drive it to work, and within half a block, everything is going to mesh in. If you're parked here in the parking lot about to go into the pasture, and you want to make sure it's engaged before you get on the grass, then just put it in reverse and drive, rock the truck a little bit. That's usually enough to get it to where they'll go, right? To get it into 4 low, however, we have to be in neutral, have to be a full stop, and then just push it down and bring it back. You'll feel it and hear it engage that reduction gear set. The reason why the light goes yellow is that it's a warning to tell us that all of our safety systems are turned off. So everything like pre-collision and whatnot. Because if you're off-road and there's a big boulder in front, you don't want pre-collision slamming on the brakes, right? You're just going to drive around it. That's the idea. That's why Toyota makes you come to a full stop, is we want to know that it was a conscious choice. You took the time to stop the truck, put it in neutral, and then turn it on. If you crash at this point, nobody's fault but yours, right? We don't want the dog to accidentally kick it in when it jumps into the back seat and then suddenly you have an accident because you didn't realize the safety systems were turned off. So we make it a conscious choice for you.
Nice.
Once we're in low range, there isn't a speed limiter that I know of. So a lot of people have asked, I guess I've just never thought of it. The new Tundra is limited to 108 miles an hour, and we've tested that. At 108, it just stops. Even if you're downhill with a tailwind, it won't go any faster because of the tires we're running, right? These aren't our high-speed Supra tire. It's a big truck tire. So 108 is where the truck stops. In 4 high, there's nothing preventing you from trying to do that again. There is no artificial limit in 4 high. It might eventually give you a message saying you're exceeding a safe speed, but it won't stop you from buzzing up to 100 miles an hour. In low range, the same thing. If you want to do 45, it's a 10-speed automatic with tons of torque. You can buzz this up pretty quick. It's going to make a ton of noise because there's a lot of gears in there moving, but there's nothing that's going to like stop you at 25 miles an hour. There isn't any kind of artificial governor for it. But once we're in low range, what we can do is now turn on the locker. So if you press the rocker switch, we should come up and get the light. It's red, again, as a warning to tell us we've engaged something different. The way our lockers have always worked, and this is even going back to the early pre-runners, off of inside of each axle in the diff housing, there's 2 gears, and there's a pin that drops in and locks them together. So now both axles are turning as one unit. They turn at the same rate. Because of that, we can only use it in low range, and Toyota will only let you do it up to 18 miles an hour. And then they turn it off. Because each tire is turning at the same rate, the truck doesn't want to make a corner. It only wants to push straight ahead. If you turn the front and the back's trying to go straight, that's what initiates the skid. It's sketchy for most drivers and downright dangerous for a lot of them if they're not expecting that. Toyota doesn't want the liability, so we turn it off automatically at 18 miles an hour. And it makes sense.
And that's the same way with the Highlander and the...
Yep, all of them are the same. And again, as long as we've been building them, as far as I know, it's always been 18 miles an hour and only low range. But the problem we're seeing now with customers is that light will be blinking, which means when the pin dropped, it didn't drop in a hole, it hit one of the teeth of the gears. And so what they try and do is rock the truck forward and back, just like it would is trying to get it into high range or whatever. And the problem is that will never work. Because as you're rocking it forward and back, both axles are turning at the same rate, those gears never shift, the pin never comes off the tooth. What you have to do is turn the steering wheel about that far, then pull forward or back a couple of feet. Now your axles are moving at a different rate,
Gotcha.
and the pin drops in. And what's so funny is if you look at the button, what are the front tires doing on the button?
Turning.
For 30 years, Toyota's been telling us how to do it, how to engage the locker. Nobody knows. Same with the lights. The lights have always shown the front tires turned. Nobody knows why. Well, that's it. If the pin drops, you have to turn the steering wheel to get those axles to spin at a different rate, and then it'll engage almost immediately. 8 to 10 inches all you have to drive if the front tire's turned.
That's new to me. How about you?
So there you go. Made it worthwhile coming
That's
out
right.
today. You learned something new. That's the single thing. If we can, every four-wheel drive system with a locker that we deliver, if we can help people understand they have to have the front tires to get it to engage, then they will never be stranded with what they think is a broken locker.
Nice.
Because it'll engage correctly. All right, so we're ready to go off-road. Tires are straight. Press MTS. Now, if you turn the round knob to the right or the left, you will see the 4 different options: mogul, sand, mud, and rock.
Mm-hmm.
All you're changing when you twist that knob is the relationship between stability control and traction control. Stability controls the throttle, traction control applies the brakes. The reason we give you different options is because we might adjust which takes priority. So if you're in mogul mode, a rough road, you could sink the back of the truck and lift the front tire completely off the ground. We don't want it just spinning crazily, so traction control applies the brake. When it touches the ground again and it feels some resistance, it releases the brake so that tire can help pull us out. But if we're in mud, we want the tires to spin. So it'll dig in a little bit and find some grip, but we don't want the truck to slide sideways. So stability takes priority and starts pulling throttle away so we don't make the situation worse, right? The closer the customer can estimate what they're actually driving in or on and match it to one of those 4 terms, the harder the truck will work to get them out unstuck. And the reason why it works so well is because the computer is just infinitely smarter than we are. If you hit the brake pedal, you're pressurizing all 4 corners, right?
Mm-hmm.
if MTS does it, it can apply the brakes on one corner or two corners or three, maybe all four, whatever it thinks is going to help get the truck unstuck. Same with the gas pedal. You only have one choice, on or off. It sends whatever 400 horsepower out to all four corners to share. MTS can deliver power to just a single corner, whatever it thinks actually has enough traction to move the vehicle. So it's just better at it because it can see what each tire is doing. That's something you can't do from the driver's seat, and you don't have any control over that. So it works so well. All right, now we're going to turn on the crawl. So go ahead and hit the crawl button, and you notice it didn't engage. Crawl literally is just low-speed cruise control. So just like our standard cruise control out on the interstate, you can't turn it on if we're in neutral and not going anywhere. So go ahead and put it in reverse. We'll have you put it in reverse because there's nobody behind us. Now put it on crawl. You'll notice one green bar. Spin it up all the way to 5. It is literally 1 to 5 kilometers an hour. In the owner's manual, it says 0 to 3 miles per hour, and that's why it says low, medium, and high here.
Okay.
But I think the engineering behind it is 1 to 5. Spin it all the way to the left, down to 1. Hold on to the steering wheel and just take your foot off the brake, and we're going to accelerate at a rocket pace of 1 kilometer an hour. Spin the knob all the way to the right. We'll go to 5 kilometers. Now back to the left. It's literally just cruise control. Go ahead and full stop. So that's how we control the speed. And if you're familiar with our current crawl, you've already recognized how much quieter it is.
It's nice.
That's the new ABS system.
Yeah, that's nice.
All right, now let's take it over our 4x4s. So as we start rolling, you can speed it up a little bit so it doesn't take us all day to get there. But then we're going to slow it all the way back down to 1 before we get there. All right, slow it down now. All the way down. There we go. And what you'll notice with the new system, do not touch the pedals, is the truck will pause for a second to give you a chance to change your mind. It's then going to push over, and then it'll pause again to prevent it from bouncing, and if anything fell off the truck, you don't want to bang an oil pan. It'll pause, it'll push over, it'll pause, everything's still attached, continue at 1 kilometer an hour. Go ahead and stop and put it in reverse. Make sure we're all the way down, take your foot off the brake. You can watch it in the MTS camera view. Same thing, this is a little higher lift coming from this side. So when it pauses, are you sure you want to go through with it? Okay, let's make it happen. Let's stop the bounce.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Nothing fell off. We'll continue. It's now got to lift the heavy end of the truck, about 3,800 pounds. So it pauses. Are you sure you want to go through with it? Let's control the speed, stop the bounce, and then right back to 1 kilometer an hour.
Nice.
Significant improvement over the older system. Now put it in 4 high.
Sorry. Push.
No, you got to be in neutral to do it. There we go. It's thinking. There we go. You'll notice MTS is still lit up. Spin the knob to the left. You now have 4 choices available in high range. Because the new pump and computer is so quick to respond, we can now manage the traction technologies even at the higher speeds that you can attain in high range. So there's like a deep snow setting. So if you're taking the truck skiing up to Vail, we can now operate in high range and still take advantage of the stability and traction systems that MTS gives you. And what's super cool, go ahead and put it in drive. Because it's cruise control, now hit crawl.
Yeah.
And then spin the knob to the right. So in high range, you can now set a cruise speed between 2 and 18 miles an hour. So it's 0 to 3 miles an hour in low range, 2 to 18 in high. And the idea is if you're heading up a Forest Service road, you're tired of getting beat to death by potholes, you can set the cruise control at 6 or 7 miles an hour and just tuck your feet under the seat instead of trying to hold a steady throttle. And just like our adaptive cruise, if you're at 55 and you want to pass a truck, you just step on the throttle, go around. As soon as you lift off, it slows back down to 55. This does the same. 6 or 7 miles an hour through the rough stuff, it smooths out. You can zip up to 40. When the road falls apart again, lift off. The truck will slow itself back down to 6 or 7, and you continue on your way.
Nice.
The button is actually labeled DAC and crawl. So the downhill assist control and the crawl mode, whether you're going uphill or downhill, it'll use both the throttle and the brakes to maintain whatever speed you set in the cruise control.
That's pretty cool.
All right, let's go ahead and put it back into 2 high. And then put it back into park. Any questions?
Nope.
I'm gonna get out.